Hi, I'm Anna, and I am an ex-host, I guess, of Collective Mind for the purposes of this video. And we are going to talk about what it's like to be the host of a system from a few different perspectives, because we've had more than one host in our system. Sorry if you can hear Charlie eating in the background. This is just how the timing worked out, but I hope it's not too distracting. So I was our original main host. I was our childhood host for the system, and it wasn't exactly the same version of me I am now. I have split since then, but I still remember that. I at least remember the biggest chunk of it, I guess, of what that old version of me experienced as our original host. So I'm going to be talking mostly from the perspective of being host in childhood, because that's what my experience was. So I was host from early childhood through right up until we were 13. And I didn't know about the rest of the system until the system events that caused me to not be host anymore. And we're gonna make a separate video talking about that some too, but we've already talked about it a little bit. But we had some major system changes all at once that involved Jade becoming a persecutor. I've acquired a Charlie. So I didn't know about the system until I met Jade as she was becoming a persecutor, as she started directly persecuting me. So I did not have a good experience learning about the system originally. But before I knew about the system, and before my role changed and I had some splits and all of that during that time when I found out, before that I had a lot of amnesia, which I thought it was normal, because my brain wanted me to ignore it. So I think of it now a lot like, while you're dreaming, things that don't make any sense in the dream, you don't notice those things while you're still dreaming. But then when you wake up, you can look back and be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I somehow teleported from this part of town to that part of town in the blink of an eye, and I just didn't pay any attention to that plot hole almost, And it was a lot like that, where I just didn't really pay attention to the things that didn't add up. But I also didn't really have any reason to think my experience wasn't normal, because it's all I had ever known. So for all I knew, everyone only remembered part of most days, And I did most of the social things in childhood, unless they got too stressful, then a childhood protector would take over. But I was the social host, basically. And I still kind of do a version of that, but our life is a lot less social in that way than it was in childhood. We have more control over what we do with our time now, and most of us don't like socializing. So if we were to go to social settings more often, I would probably front more during those situations. But so at the time, I did things like school for the most part. I did sleepovers and playdates and birthday parties, all of the normal kid stuff, kinda. But one of the things that is hard to explain how it didn't stand out more to me was I would like spend some time in our inner world at the time. And I thought I was like really vividly daydreaming, basically. Or sometimes I thought it was like normal dreaming, depending on the timing of like when I next fronted. So if I next fronted like as the body was waking up, I would think it was a dream. But if I next fronted like in the middle of class at school, I didn't think I had fallen asleep. I thought I had like gotten lost in my own head, basically. And I just assumed that like the things people say all the time just in passing of like getting your head stuck up in the clouds and stuff like that, I thought it was like more, I thought other people were experiencing the same kinds of things I was to the same extent that I was, and I had no reason to like ask for clarification about that. And like if I had ever tried to, like, protectors would have also stopped me, but because like it was supposed to be a secret. But yeah, I spent some time in our inner world. I had water powers in our inner world, and when I would play like make-believe games with friends and family and stuff like that, like other kids my age for the most part, I would usually play a character called Anna who had water powers. Like, there are things now that seem obvious that I just, like, they didn't stand out to me at the time. I had no reason to, like, question them. They were my normal. One of the questions I have on the list that I'm looking at is there anything you wish you had known before becoming host? And that's kind of a hard one. Because part of me wants to say that I wish I had known to avoid some people. But that's complicated because I wouldn't have believed that without knowing about trauma. And it was my job at the time to not know about trauma and to function normally for the rest of life. But on top of that, it was sometimes my job to function normally around those people. So I don't know. That's a really hard question. And then the last one on my list is, which of your roles do you think is easiest or like the best fit for me specifically? And I'm torn between social alter and caretaker, I guess. Those both feel very right to me. And I guess I might lean a little towards social alter just because that's been true for so long. But I mean, I had caretaking tendencies growing up too. Like I would do like caretaking type things even in play, like with dolls and stuff like that. I don't know. Some of those are hard questions. But yeah, I did the normal childhood things for the most part, and I had a lot of fun. My job to some extent was to make friends, and I had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of like very big emotions surrounding like friendships and things like that. They were very important to me. So if there were like problems going on in any of those relationships, it was really hard on me. But yeah, that's essentially my experience as host. Natalie and Aura are both really close. I think the goal is to do Natalie next because she's also going to be talking mostly about childhood, but also a little bit about now, so it's like the perfect transition. So I guess I'm going to see if I can switch with her. It might help if I take my necklace off. And I know she wanted to wear the scarf that's behind me. Let me see if that helps. Is that good? And it doesn't make sense over that, so I guess I'll do this. It's a little better. I'm gonna turn this off too because I don't know that it's allowing me yet, actually. Just to save the time editing the co-conscious thing, it's gonna be the same three of us. Like, I guess we'll change it if that changes, but otherwise it's the same three of us. Just like the two who aren't fronting our co-conscious, if that makes sense. So, I'm Natalie. I was never really full host, but I have a lot of experience being co-host, and I was closer to like a 50-50 co-host in childhood with Anna. She did most of the socializing and I did most of the rest. So I did a lot of the, like, I ended up doing a lot of things like homework, but I also just did a lot of the things that were less social. I watched HGTV, I did a lot of reading, I did some writing, like there were things like that that were less of Anna's area that I would usually do. I also learned about the system a little earlier than Anna did. Not a lot earlier, I think a few years earlier, and ended up working some with Michael at the time to like help keep the secret and things like that. So my experience with that was a little bit different. That transition wasn't as hard for me as it was for Anna and a lot of others in the system. I also, I did some parts of school that were less social. Like, Anna would usually be out for recess, but I would a lot of times be out, during class, if that makes sense. I didn't have total amnesia with Anna, which was helpful for those things. I wouldn't have, details from when Anna was out, unless I had been co-conscious with her, which co-consciousness was a lot less common for us in childhood than it is now. Our, communication and amnesia and stuff overall was a lot, stricter. Communication was harder and amnesia was higher, generally. But I would, if I switched in the middle of the school day, I wouldn't be disoriented. I would know which class I was in. I would have a general idea of what I was supposed to do for the rest of the school day. Those important things would be there. I don't have very clear memories from before I knew about the system, the more I think about it. I'm not sure I would even be able to talk about what it was like for me before then, because I don't know that I remember before then. So I'm wondering now if that was maybe a split. But I don't know. So I'll leave that alone, I guess. I already talked about what I did for hosting. I guess what I do for hosting now has changed some. I either do or at least help with a lot of organizational things, a lot of structural things, like life structuring. I help with planning things out and figuring out efficient ways to do things. I'll probably front a lot more once the semester starts, which when this video goes up, the semester will be going, but we're filming a bunch of them in advance, so it's not quite yet. It's a few days away for us still. I expect I'll be fronting a lot more during the school year to help take some of that load off of Aura. And I help some with like cleaning type housework too, but Liz is a lot better at helping with that than I am because she enjoys it, so it's a lot less stressful for her. I'm not sure that there's really anything I wish I had known before becoming host. I guess I wish in childhood that I had been able to communicate better with Anna. That would have been very helpful in some situations. Even little things, like I could have asked her to like not move my bookmark in the book I was reading, or like little things like that. Things where I would be like, I definitely didn't read this chapter, where was I in the book? Or what happened in this TV show, or that kind of thing. But we could have also like more intentionally split up our time, I think. More like how we're able to now, where if someone is really excited to do something, we can plan that out somewhat and make sure that they have a chance to do that. So it would have helped avoid days where I avoided doing anything that would pull Anna out instead of me so that I could have some time, or vice versa, which when Anna did it, she didn't know she was doing that. She was just doing things she liked to do. But I think that would have been really helpful. I don't have as many roles, so saying which one is like the best fit is kind of a little harder for me, because other than symptom holder, which, like, I guess symptom holder is easiest in a sense because it's the most automatic. Like, I don't have to put effort into it, but it's also the least pleasant, so I don't think I'm gonna include that one. And in my case, co-host and secondary task manager are essentially two terms for the same thing as far as how I'm currently doing it. So I guess co-hosting would be a little easier because it's not necessarily only tasks. So I would be co-hosting even if I switched to read a book for a few hours or something. So I guess I'll pick co-host for that. I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna get Aura. Wait. Yeah. Okay. Okay, wait. I sound weird. Oh my god, they're both really close. Can I leave your scarf on? I like it. Okay. I'm psychoanalyzing my voice so much because we're kind of blurry, but okay. So I took over main host when Anna stopped being main host, so at 13. And the story of how I learned about the system is actually already in what was my original Meet the Alters video. So I'll probably link that video at the end of this if you want to go watch it. The like overview of that, like the short version, is in early spring 2020, right when the world was shutting down. I had a bunch more free time very suddenly because I had been working full time, and YouTube happened to recommend some DID videos to me, which I ended up watching because I've always had like an interest in psychology and stuff like that. And I watched a bunch of those videos and started seeing some familiar things. Wrote down a list of things that resonated a little too much with me in my bullet journal, and then talked to my therapist about it, and then continued to talk to my therapist about it for months until like other alters started slowly introducing themselves to me, and Michael at the time was like primary persecutor protector and was very upset about it, and it was a whole thing, which that's also going to be a part of a video that we're going to do soon on basically the 3 times, at least so far in our life, that we had like major system changes. And this is one of those, the most recent one. And it was all chaotic, and that was around the same time that we met Primal Pack, and I just kind of slowly learned more and more about the system, and am still learning more and more about the system. So before I knew about the system, I didn't have much amnesia except childhood amnesia, which is a huge exception. And like I had less and less day-to-day amnesia like the longer I had been main host, essentially. So I had some like fairly significant amnesia still like during that transition period when we were 13. And then I just like suddenly remembered things, like current things, not childhood things. But I had basically no childhood memories. I still have basically no childhood memories. And I knew that about myself and just thought that I like forgot my whole childhood. And I don't know how that didn't stand out more to me. I guess it was the thing that Anna said earlier in the video about like my brain just not letting me look too closely at it. But I had so much childhood, like I could probably like describe like 5 childhood memories or something up until 13. Like that's nowhere near like what normal memory is supposed to be. But I also had a lot of experiences of like not being able to predict what I was going to be like or want or enjoy or whatever, like until it was happening. So, or like what I would be capable of, how I would emotionally handle something, because I was switching with other people and then watching them react to things. So, like as one of the best examples, Joseph, before the split, used to do a lot of writing, and he was writing this whole story, and I would sit in front of the Word document with the story, thinking, trying to figure out what to write, and nothing would come to me. And then actually Joseph, would suddenly have thoughts and ideas and just suddenly start being able to write the story. And I would accidentally foreshadow a bunch of things that I didn't even know I was going to write, because I wasn't planning the plot in advance, but Joseph was, and I didn't know what he was planning. I was just watching him write it in real time. And I would be like, how did I accidentally perfectly foreshadow this thing? Which sounds so ridiculous now, but it was a lot of things like that. And like, I wouldn't know what type of music I was going to be in the mood to listen to that day, because different people had very different music tastes. And I would sometimes like, just have certainty that I was supposed to listen to specific songs or artists or whatever, even if I wasn't in the mood for them, which I now know was Michael, like, telling me to play someone's trigger songs. And, like, just all these things of, I didn't know what food we were gonna want, like, none of that stuff. And yeah, it was so many things seem so obvious now, but it was not obvious at the time. So, like, I took over a lot of Anna's job when I became host, but now looking back, I also took over some of Natalie's, I think. Especially more recently, because there was that chunk of time that Natalie was dormant. But even before then, I think I did a little bit more of some of those things than Anna did. Because school, in a lot of ways, got less social. Especially we did online public school, so that was a lot less social. So I did a lot of that, I think. I didn't actually do as much of college, because Jade kind of did a lot of that. But, and then once we were working, I did some of that, but Joseph, who was co-hosting at the time, did a lot of that, and old Natalie, which it's always confusing to differentiate the two, but old Natalie, the one who fused with Michael to make Jaden, not current Natalie, she did a lot of work too. So yeah, and then I had a chunk of time after old Natalie and Michael fused into Jaden and Joseph split, where I just, like, didn't have any co-hosts for a while until more recently when, like, this Natalie woke up and Liz started co-hosting too. So now we share hosting stuff a little bit more, but I still kind of am the default fronting alter in a way. Like, I'm the most likely by far to wake up in the body in the morning. I'm the most likely to be fronting if nothing is specifically triggering anyone, even, like, positive triggers. Just that kind of thing, which I think could be partly because I'm always, like, co-conscious or co-fronting, even if I'm not fully fronting. So, like, I'm gonna be here anyway, and if other people have things that they want to do inside or whatever, I would be the last one still here if everybody else leaves, you know? Let's see. Anything I wish I had known before becoming host? Oh gosh. I think I wish I had known, like, very generally, that if something that is sometimes easy or at least doable and currently feels impossible, like, I don't necessarily have to do it right now, because looking back, I think there were a lot of times where I probably ended up triggering other people to handle something that didn't have to be done right then, but I, for whatever reason, was just, like, frustrated with my inability to do it. But it was something that I wasn't good at and somebody else was. So, like, using the example with Joseph writing, there were probably times where I triggered him to front to write because I got so frustrated that I couldn't write his story, you know? So I wish I would have been more patient with some of those things. I mean, easiest role for me would be host, because it's just like the default role for me. So, yeah. So I think that is all of the things for this video. I hope you liked the video. If you have thoughts or questions or comments or whatever, the comment section is under the video and available for you. Will you read all of our comments and respond in some way to pretty much all of them? A lot of them are just likes, unless they're specific questions, but you can also ask us questions or talk to us generally on our Discord server, which is linked in the description, along with our Patreon and our Etsy shop. And please also subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't already, to make sure you don't miss future videos, and so we can reach our next subscription goal of 400 subscribers and do our next compilation video. And yeah, I think that's everything. Thanks for watching. Bye!